Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Thank you for joining us at the Beardy and the Beast Media Club, a discussion into media where we don't shy away from spoilers. We won't stare down those spoilers like Judge Doom's cartoonishly dagger like eyes. We're available here and on any other services listed at beardyandthebeast.com. My name is Drew, and as always, he's not bad, he's just drawn that way. Devin is here.
Yo.
Joining us is Ashley Good of Ready Set with Ashley Good.
Also, yo, thank you for having me.
Where can you be found?
You can find me on, I'd say you can find the show on Instagram at ReadySetPod. However, it's basically just a filler dump account for the show. My main account is just Black Frames, so BLK Frames, that's my production company. But yes, I'm the host of Ready Set with Ashley Good.
Awesome.
I'm Ashley Good.
What was your name again? Today we'll be Today we'll be discussing the 1988 live-action / animated hybrid film Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So Ashley, was this piece a Betty Bop or was it a Betty Flop?
I don't know. I'll just say I'm a little disturbed by the number of patty cake scenes in the movie. I thought this was rated PG, and Jessica Rabbit, that whore, she's playing patty cake with a detective. I have a lot of feelings about this movie.
How's she gonna play patty
So it's a
cake with
Betty
another man?
PG-13 because I kept it off screen.
Oh God.
Oh gee. I think the whole patty cake thing did well to draw the line between the seriousness and the cartoonishness of the whole film, uh, like where it was dancing between the two and couldn't, like, it didn't want to firmly commit to either side until near the end. So I think that
Yeah.
whole patty cake scene set the mood for the entire film, and I kind of like that.
I think personally, not to necessarily set the mood. It was the perfect example of what the film's mood was going for.
Hmm.
Right? Because like I personally think they set it like even right in the first scene where Roger couldn't get his lines right.
I'll just interject and say it was what the movie was going for, but I don't think they succeeded. I felt like the tone was all over the place. And yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of feelings. I actually Googled, is Roger Rabbit an allegory for racial segregation? Because I was wondering, I'm like, this can't just be me. I'm clearly not the first person to have thought this about the movie. But yeah, apparently it is a, by now, well known fact that it is meant to be about the racism of the 1940s and 50s in the US.
Yeah, I could see it. Definitely, like the way that it was spoofing and covering things that doesn't actually make me surprised at all.
Mm.
Like I had a feeling like there was something deeper to the film, and I'm really glad that you brought that up because I knew I was missing something, and I couldn't quite put my finger on.
I wasn't sure if this was intentional or not at first, but as the film went on, I'm like, this has got to be intentional. All of the quote unquote bad guys are using human weapons and human cars, whereas the toons and the quote unquote good guys are using cartoon weapons and cartoon cars. And it made me think about how, the theories about the CIA dropping, weapons into the inner cities.
But that's not accurate because Roger has a real gun at the end.
Oh shit, you're right. At the very end, yeah. But maybe
He's
that's
using a real
because he
gun.
became the bad guy. Ah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with it missing the tone. I thought it to me it felt like it was hitting the noir beats when it would like I saw it as a noir with cartoon characters. So that's where the cartoony aspects of it come in. So I don't know if I quite agree it missed the mark there. Like again, just using the patty cake scene as the example for that. It's in noir, that's what the private eyes do, and getting the sleazy shots, but it's like actually playing patty cake, which is fantastically cartoony. So I thought it melded it well.
It's interesting because I had a completely different take. I thought it like took all these genres and was just like lampooning them into one amalgamation of a film. So
Hmm.
the noir detective side, the cartoonish side, like everything was dialed up, uh,
Yeah.
and then just thrown in that kind of mixing pot. And I thought it did well in that aspect, though I'm surprised I liked it all at all, given that it's an older film. I tend to not like anything more than 5 years old because I'm a heathen like that.
I just, as somebody who has watched many an old noir film, yes, it hit the beats, but it did just that. I felt like it was very formulaic. I mean, aesthetically, I love the film, and Drew, I know you love it when people say the word aesthetically, so I'm just gonna keep using it. But no, it was a great looking movie. It was ahead of its time in terms of quality of animation and everything, but personally, I just thought it was a little flat. I mean, maybe that's just depression brought on from life and everything, and I just can't appreciate fine humor anymore, but I personally didn't, yeah, I just didn't like it. I do have a list of notes, though, that I'd be happy to discuss, and got a lot of questions, and honestly, more questions than answers.
Yeah, that's probably not a good sign, given that like this type of film shouldn't leave you with questions. Like it shouldn't be a thinker when you're looking at something that's more like comedy orientated. It's not supposed to be abstract. It's not supposed to be like some big art piece. So coming out of it with too many questions is probably a bad sign. Um, I I I did like it because for some reason I did find myself laughing more than I anticipated, but very surface level. Everything that made me
What did
laugh
you
was more.
like about it?
I don't know. I was in the right mood probably because when I watched it, felt like a trash pail all day, and then was just finally feeling better and watched this movie, and I was like, you know what? This is the best part of my day.
mean, see, this is like for me, like I love this movie. I've always loved this movie. So um, I know Drew, you said you've only watched this like once when you were like much younger type thing. So it was pretty much blind for you.
Yeah, I only
I
remembered
don't
the
know.
ending.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've seen it, Ashley. Um, but I don't know. I find it funny in the right place. I found it paid off what it was setting up. Uh, it might have been a bit formulaic, but I know we've said this before. That doesn't take away. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's really how is it using the tropes and are they using them well and out of place? So um, I guess if you're seeing them used out of place, that's um, be something to explore a little bit.
I mean, I guess one of my big criticisms would actually be with the acting and the lack of chemistry. I
Mm.
understand animated characters can only have so
Yeah.
much chemistry with the live action cast, but Haskins, who played Eddie, the main cop guy, who I've got to say reminded me of Danny DeVito. At first, I was like, "Oh shit, is that Danny DeVito?" But yeah, for somebody that's supposed to be an alcoholic, like they allude to that multiple times over the course of the film, he's remarkably sober.
That could also go back to that PG-13 aspect, though.
Then why even make him an alcoholic? I get that it's a noir and that's a trope, but it was just it came across as flat acting, which unintentional pun because, the animation aspect of it.
I do well like I definitely didn't see much chemistry between like all the human actors. It's I definitely noticed what could be construed as chemistry between the animated actors, but that's a completely different thing. Um, the what was it? Eddie and Dolores was her
Yeah.
name? Dolores. Um, I mean, they alluded to a previous relationship and they had like a couple scenes, but other than that, I didn't even see the tension of like, oh, they're exes or they have anything that was even past romantic. So there, I didn't get any feeling with that there. So I definitely see where a lack of chemistry could be found.
Mhm. All right. I,
I didn't
I mean,
even realize that they were in fact exes.
Oh,
they
they
did the whole like photos. like of them and Catalina
Catalina
and then
only
like
kind
I don't know
and the
what to tell
broken
you.
and the broken up kiss and with Roger interrupting him as they're about to kiss.
See that
And
that
her getting angry at
Yes.
Jessica Rabbit when they were there. His pants fell off.
that actually that moment in the movie theater like felt out of place to me because of um probably back to that lack of chemistry because I didn't feel like they had any past relationships, so the fact that they were going in for a smooch seemed out of place to me.
I think I missed the lack of chemistry, but I was really focused more on the chemistry between Bob Hoskins and Roger Rabbit because I thought that was actually fantastic. The way that he, I never felt like Roger wasn't there with him. In a lot of animated live action hybrids, it doesn't feel like the animated people are there. And I know they did a lot of things on stage, like they filmed it as if Roger was there, so it wasn't voiced over. He was literally the voice actor. Can't remember his name offhand. He was literally there in a Roger Rabbit costume, yelling out the lines at him.
Oh,
And
Fleischer.
yeah, Fleischer. That's it. Yeah.
I feel sort of bad that I didn't like this movie, but I mean, I guess it works to foil to people that really liked it. Uh, I actually have a note, like I was a stream of consciousness notes as I was watching this movie, and I quote, "Thoughts about an hour in. God, this is boring. The dialogue is flat, and I don't care about anyone in the movie. Roger Rabbit is so annoying. Make it stop. Make it stop." But to expand on that, I have a little bit of interesting information regarding the stand-in actors because I was curious if anybody was actually playing Jessica Rabbit or if they just animated her in. And they actually used two different actors. The stand-in actor, the model, was Betsy Brantley, which sounds like the name of twins in a suburb.
Hmm?
That was the model. And fun fact, she was actually married to Steven Soderbergh for a while. And Kathleen Turner was actually the voice of Jessica Rabbit, but was uncredited. So,
Did she see
interesting
she was
tidbits there.
uncredited? I'm not sure why she was uncredited. That was something I couldn't find anything about.
Well, one was it the singing voice and the other was the speaking?
Yeah.
It's I think the speaking voice was uncredited, which
Yeah.
mm, seems wrong to me considering the singing scene was like 30 seconds long.
Yeah, I don't know really why the crediting was like that, but there's a number. Who knows? There could be many reasons behind that, and I couldn't find anything about it. So um,
I'm glad
it is interesting.
I'm glad that you mentioned like the lack of attachment to any of the characters, like not having, I imagine, any empathy for them or like any care to what's happening to them because I kind of felt that too. Like I felt bad for Jessica Rabbit because like she was doing everything she could for the rabbit she loved, but she's the only one that had any form of like emotional motivation on the tune side of things. Everything else was just gags and complaining about stuff. And then of course, yeah, the lack of chemistry from the human actors. Christopher Lloyd was pretty over the top. Took me a while to realize exactly who he was. I'm like, I know that guy. Where's that guy from? What it, what I was kind of sad that left me wanting as far as the characters went is we never actually got to see a full tune version of Christopher Lloyd, like to Judge Doom.
Mm.
I could have swore there was something like a fully animated version of him somewhere. Am I just going? Is this the Mandela effect again?
I swear that no, I mean if it is, we're both affected because I swear too that there was a shot of him fully animated because there are scenes of this movie burnt in my head
You're right.
from my childhood because the whole thing with the shoes being dropped in the dip that traumatized me for many years. It might be why I don't like the movie as an adult. Another fun fact, I'm just going to keep dropping those. The ingredients to Dr. Doom, or whatever his name is, the dip, it was turpentine, acetone, and benzene. Fun fact, that's paint thinner. So
Yep.
that's why it's the only thing that could destroy tunes. Who knew?
It took an evil genius
I'm
to
sorry.
figure this out.
Yeah, no, now that you mentioned, I'm
Yeah,
vaguely
like, why didn't they try
remembering
whiteout?
No, it just covers it up.
Glowing red eyes, blonde hair. Am I just thinking of evil Doug Funny? Might be thinking of just evil Doug Funny right now.
No, that was, I swear, you're right. You are not going insane. I am not gaslighting you. He was very much animated in the movie at one point.
Well, there was, because I mean, Bonkers is technically the same universe. I'm wondering if it was something like that,
Okay,
or Bonkers was a similar universe.
saying words that
was
magic
a
man
TV.
with his magic words. This is a thing? What is this? Tell me.
There was a TV show called Bonkers, which I think was Disney trying to. They didn't make it Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but they made it very Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And it had like a cat cop. I'm
So,
wondering if
Devin,
it's
maybe
something
you
like
can
that.
answer this. Was this actually, sorry, was this actually a Disney Warner Brothers co-production?
So this is technically one of the only two Touchstone films that Disney calls its own. So this was a Disney film, and they did convince Warner Brothers to let them have Daffy and Bugs, but they had they had to have equal screen time with Mickey and Donald, which is why you actually have them in the scenes together. So yeah, they were on loan the first time. After this released, because Warner Brothers did Space Jam, and they wanted to actually return the favor, but management at Disney had changed completely, and basically flipped the bird and said, "No, you can't have them." And Warner Brothers was very upset about that, and they really haven't ever been able to kind of build a relationship again.
I know I
Yeah.
wouldn't be holding out for a new collab or anything myself. As much as I was entertained by this movie, I don't think a sequel would be something I'd want to see, especially in the age where everything is getting rebooted and redone over and over and over again.
Yeah, I might have saw some disturbing news the other
Oh
day.
no.
Yeah.
This get me started ranting about getting new IPs out there and stop remaking the same old garbage over and over again.
Is it the Space Jam sequel?
There actually are like I did see something about looking at doing a Who Framed Roger Rabbit sequel for like um 2022. I think I saw something like that. Um, it's one
Yeah.
of those things where they said apparently they said ages ago that they wouldn't mind. They don't want to do it as a sequel. They want to do it like as a they called it a continuation as opposed to a
It's
sequel. So more like like Indiana Jones, where they're not actually connected necessarily, but the same world universe. I have no idea if anything's going to happen with it. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have Bob Hoskins in it anymore, and no idea who signed on or anything like that. But I did see something, and I was disappointed.
R.I.P. Bob Hoskins.
Mhm.
I have no idea if he's dead. I'm sorry. I was just
Yeah, yeah.
oh
throwing
no.
that out there.
If
He
he's
might very
not
I
and
much
you
be
think
just
I
alive.
think he's
predicted
dead.
it,
No, I'm pretty sure I actually read something
Oh
about
shit.
that, and I hope I'm wrong. I didn't actually look it up. I know I feel terrible. No, I think it did.
oh
Yeah,
jeez.
no, died 2014. All right, good. I didn't
Oh
look
Oh,
that
thank
something up.
God.
jeez. That's gonna be the soundbite for this one. Died 2014. All right, good. Yeah, I did see something about like an original treatment involved a World War II thing where like the Toons go into Nazi Germany to rescue Jessica Rabbit, who's been captured by the Nazis or something like that. And then Spielberg was like, "Nope."
Yeah, I heard that was an idea for or a sequel or something, or prequel rather.
I would be I would probably be entertained by that, to be honest. That'd probably be
Yeah.
a ridiculous movie that I'd enjoy. It's a lot of interesting like scenes and like stage production stuff they did in this film though that I really like. A good example is when Jessica Rabbit takes off Valiant's hat and then like shoves it in his face. And like I was sitting there staring at the film. I had to rewind it a couple times to be like, how did they do that? Just I'm not. I don't know too much about the production side of things. All I know is I was impressed by that. Do you have any ideas on that, Ashley?
I mean, you've seen the films I make. Roger Rabbit, looks a million times better than anything I've ever shot. But all self-deprecating comments aside, I feel like it would be easier to do with animation than CG. I
Mm,
feel like much of the movie, I mean, it's easy for us to be wowed now because, while the animating over top of film is an old technology, it's become sort of foreign to us because we're so used to CG and everything. So it
mm,
almost looks more complicated because it's old timey. But I feel like the technical aspects of doing that would actually be easier than combining computer generated images with real images.
So, because I love looking at the technical side of things, um, I know this is one thing that um, I know both me and Drew have talked about a lot in a lot of other films. Um, if you like, besides the actual like obviously animated drawings, all of the effects are practical. So,
Yeah.
um, so they actually like ended up just creating like a bunch of little robots and stuff like that. That because you could animate over it. So like with the in the bar scene or in Jessica Rabbit's introduction, right when they're in the club, the octopus pouring all the drinks. Like there was some marionetters up top moving all of the drinks around and
mm.
doing that with the gun and doing that with the guns for the weasels, so it looked bouncy. They had like a little robot arm with Baby Herman's cigar, so they could just move the cigar naturally and paint
Yeah.
over it and draw over
Easier
it.
might not have been the right term. Yeah, I'm biased because everything I do is a practical effect. Like all of my
Mm.
filmmaking, I just enjoy doing it. I mean, in my movie Pity Party, I just had fake limbs everywhere in one scene, or there was blood, none of it was CG. I could not afford a CG person. So, yeah, I've only ever used practical effects. So to me, I'm like, oh, that's easy because I know how to do it. But I guess to the laymen or whatever, it might be easier to use CGI. So I'd like to take back my word about the production of Roger Rabbit being
Yeah.
easier than a CGI film.
I think lazy might be like I think now it's lazy with a lot of the way they just rely on computer animation. I mean, it's big enough that even when we're watching movies with CG, it's like both of us will point out, it's like, but that was practical, right? We talked about that a lot in Silent Hill, right? Like the monsters and that would have just been CGI nowadays instead of, dancers in flesh colored bags. Um, so I think it's amazing the passion that went into the making of this. Like they essentially had 55 minutes of animation. So just shy of like a full Disney movie in and of itself for this. And they made essentially they had to do different techniques because all of a sudden they actually were worried about shading and highlights, which a lot of videos weren't. Which a lot of animated films don't really do. Right? 'Cause it adds time, not necessary. And moving the cameras around, like you filmed it as if it was live action, which because I mean there were films with animated animation live action hybrids before. I mean Mary Poppins is a good example, but it was always like this static shot to make it super easy to do. Like I think I read something like I think it was for again the Jessica Rabbit song. I think they were saying like if they layered all of the cells up, it would have been like 3-4 feet tall because like that that in and of itself that specific scene to get that shimmer effect, it was like 8 layers per frame per picture all hand drawn and hand painted.
The shimmer effect was really cool, and I would say the highlight of the film. I mean, that's one of the compliments I have written down was I really enjoyed the shimmer effect. Also, I would like the mallet with the fist that comes out of it. That looks like a pretty fun toy to have.
Not the singing sword.
I really like the singing sword.
Eh,
I don't have enough enemies of which to have a hammer with a fist that'll fly out of it.
It's because
doesn't
we're
have
not
to be an
popular enough
enemy.
yet.
It can just be slow walkers on the street, somebody whose face you don't like, homeless people you don't want to give change to. You just have the mallet, the fist comes out, problems are solved. Come on.
You're selling me on this. How many payments of 1999?
You have to buy it through Acme. I do have a question about Jessica Rabbit.
Sure.
Don't know if you guys can answer this. Does she only ever have one outfit? And a follow-up question. Her hair always covers one half of her face, which makes me wonder if perhaps she is horribly disfigured. Maybe she's been splashed with the dip or something, but you can never see both, if you just half her face is hidden, she's in one outfit. I think maybe she's like a battered, abused singer. She's like working in this bar. Does she really want to be there?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
not
I want
purple
to know her
eyeshadow.
backstory. Yeah, and for that matter, what's her maiden name? I mean, okay, Roger Rabbit, so she married. She's Jessica Rabbit. Is she Jessica human? Jessica person? I don't know.
I think I actually saw a family name listed in the that other treatment that I kind of mentioned. It was like Greg or something like that, something um like Austrian or German sounding. The
You say Keurig, like the coffee things?
hashtag not an ad.
Unless they
No,
want to pay us.
No,
you got the sequel, they're in Nazi Germany, and she's like, hang on, let me just make myself a coffee with this future technology. And then Keurig pays Disney money. I don't know. I'm tired.
yeah, I don't know how it works. That definitely puts another like a dark spin on it, just to like do a bit of theory crafting. And imagine it. It's clear that Roger Rabbit's career is kind of winding down. He's probably not bringing in as much money to keep Jessica in a life that she's accustomed to. So she resorts to lounge singing so that she can keep up with the amenities that she enjoys, and uh, taking a dark turn for cartoon.
Have either of you watched BoJack Horseman?
Yep.
I've seen a couple episodes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a sequel, I'd like to see Roger as kind of a BoJack-esque washed-up actor at that point. You know, maybe Jessica, she's let herself go a little bit. She wears leggings a lot. She's got some kids named Betsy and Brantley running around her. She's just tired.
I do like the fact that Jessica Rabbit was she's the only one that seemed to understand what was going on and was right from start to finish in the movie. I just kind of
Well,
noticed, yeah, kind of noticed that she was just like any foreshadowing or plot giveaways that were done by like communication from Jessica Rabbit during the film.
action. I think maybe some of the more obvious stuff was like she's definitely did a bit of that exposition. Um, I did want to just go back quickly to the appearance of her. I mean, you do actually see both sides of her face a few times. That was actually designed off of I can't remember. Like they based it off of like 3 or 4 actresses from the 40s and 50s, and that was like one of their distinctive hairstyles. So that's where that part came from. And to go back to the foreshadowing there, I saw a lot of things throughout, like even with Doom being the same tune that killed his brother. Like there was a mention of he was talking about the case where he killed his brother, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were I think it was Somalis or something. Is that they were going after and got killed while investigating that, and lieutenant or the police sergeant said the same thing about Doom getting voted in by that same group in the area. So like there was lots of little things there, just not the obvious ones.
Probably just the oversimplified plot throughout the entire movie. Like there wasn't actually complex. It was kind of like pretty A to C as far as like a noir or anything mystery related. Kind of knew who did it and what the problem was from beginning to the end. I don't even know if that's a product of foreshadowing, more so just it having a simpler plot for a more all ages audience.
You're saying like you think it's obvious that Doom was the tune that killed his brother?
Hmm. You know, it's hard to say because I knew that he was a tune going into it
Yeah.
because I remembered the ending, kind of. So I'm wondering if anyone with fresh eyes uh, would have had the same feeling.
I just think it's interesting what you guys took away from this versus what I took away from this. I mean, not to use a Roger Rabbit type joke, not to toot my own horn, but I mean, I am the filmmaker out of this trio, and you guys have watched it in a much more insightful way than I did. My comments that I wrote, I'm like, the dirty guy in the bar made me realize that laborers are almost dirty looking in movies. Seriously, dude couldn't have put on a clean shirt. And then I started thinking about classism. And you're all, oh, foreshadowing, character development, all of these intelligent things, and I'm just making myself angry about how the working class is portrayed in a movie from 1988.
Well, I mean, if we
It
could
takes place during like right at the end of World War II.
47.
Yeah.
Well, obviously not in 88. Like, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old.
So well, I mean, if you think about the reason why they do that in film to depict, say, like a laborer or worker in that way is you need to be able to tell exactly what they do within 5 seconds of seeing them, because there can't be like this big spiel or exposition. If that laborer were to walk into the bar with like a suit on, you'd be like, oh, he's a well-to-do individual. You don't know that, you know, he's cleaned up from working the coal mines and now he's, having a nice night out with his partner.
I just think we need to reevaluate our stereotypes in films, and maybe we should all, think why when we see men in suits walking into bars, we don't assume they have been working in the coal mines, because that is our own biases and bigotry. And yeah, so the next time you see a man in a suit walking into a bar, you go up and you tell him thank you for your service for mining that coal. See how that goes. I bet he'll feel appreciated.
I'll try that. And if I'm spot on, well then that'll be good. I feel lectured now.
I think
I'll
I've
smell it.
realized I think I'm realizing why people don't like my films, because I'm like I don't explain this stuff. Maybe maybe Roger Rabbit is a piece of classic art and I'm just a hack, and that's what I'm taking away from this interview.
Well, so one thing distinction that I always like to make is that there's a difference between good and entertaining. So I happen to find this movie both good and entertaining, and that's coming from like how the story's laid out. I didn't see any major holes in how the story was done. I thought most things were set up throughout it. The characters were consistent, that type of thing. So when I'm watching a movie, that's what I'm looking for. Very rarely am I personally going and watching a movie for the deeper the deeper social commentary. um, so like that's where some of my perspectives come from when we're watching it. Uh, but um, I thought the cast like of the bar, like yeah, you had the coal miner. You'd notice like a bunch of them were like war veterans, like amputees and all that too was in there. Like I actually
Yeah.
thought that was like, nope, that fits kind of the tone there too, right? Like I appreciated that. Now we've got Drew all pondering.
Well, I was just thinking, I was judging to myself that bar scene whether or not Judge Doom had like a kick the dog moment where he like grabbed the sleeve of the army veteran who was missing an arm and like used it to wipe off the chalkboard. But I was also considering that they pretty much established the fact that he was evil from the get go. Like, did he have a skull on his cane? I could have swore.
Yeah, pretty sure it was a skull.
And his name was Doctor Doom. I mean, that's not the name you give to a good guy.
Oh, I think it was Judge Doom. Sorry,
Yeah,
I miss
yeah.
I misspoke.
Oh, Judge, sorry, Doctor. I'm giving him credentials he doesn't deserve.
You're supposed
To
to be
be a
very.
judge, you need to be a lawyer. Lawyers have doctorates.
Is this a fact? Is this a super cool fact? I'm gonna fact check that later. That doesn't sound right to me.
No. Sorry, Devin.
Didn't find that there was many like major story beats in this. Like it was uh, very simple and very straightforward. Like about the only twist, you kind of enlightened me to that. The about the only twist you would get from this is, oh, Judge Doom was actually the tune that killed Valiant's brother. Makes it very accessible, but there's also a bunch of stuff that I think kind of like would push people away. They kind of missed the beat when it came to the tunes, um, maturing them in the way that they did, going from like the zany tune thing that you would expect from like your Space Jams, where they carry those personalities from the cartoon into the real world. They didn't have that here. They all, aside from aside from Roger Rabbit, I'm pretty sure everyone else had like a show persona and a like real world persona, and I think that would have detached like younger viewers from the film. Am I expressing that correctly?
I think so, but you know, I still don't know quite who the movie was for. I mean, it's a little bit too mature for some children to really fully understand, and I just think it's too boring for most adults. I'm sorry, I know you both loved it, or at least liked it. One of the comments that I wrote was, and I mean, I'm just playing into this bitchy thing at this point. I didn't really hate it that much, but that's just all I wrote down, so that's what I'm working with. But I wrote, not a movie to watch if you have a headache or don't want to develop a headache. The only people I can see genuinely enjoying this movie in modern times are children and the elderly, like old elderly, people that only eat pudding and enjoy the company of children.
I feel like this is an excerpt from your diary.
All
I'm
of a sudden,
just
I'm realizing how you
complaining
felt
about the elderly and pudding.
realizing how you felt when we were talking about it the little hours.
Yeah. Oh, like
I
it's all
mean,
perception. Like
yeah,
like I wouldn't say I love this film. I definitely like enjoyed watching it. It's not time that I want back per se. Uh it's more that I had a laugh. It was simple. It didn't feel like it was a chore to get through. I have a pretty low bar for movies that I enjoy. Like I watched a movie recently called Jujitsu, which has Nick Cage sword fighting a robot. Like this is probably the best movie I've watched all year.
Okay, here's a thought exercise for you. Drew, let's paint a picture. You're 120. You've lived a good life. You've got like 50 little Drews running around.
Hopefully.
You're on your deathbed. Everything hurts. The light is starting to fade. And you wish you could have a little bit more time with the love of your life who's holding your hand. Would you give yourself that hour and a half that you spent watching Roger Rabbit, or would you just drift off into the darkness?
Well, I mean, if we're getting theoretical, then you would say that every experience that I've had up until that point was something that guided to me to where I ended up. Meaning that if I had not watched the film, I may not have ended up with that person in the first place.
So Roger Rabbit will help you find true love and fulfillment.
Moral of the story, right there. Have I
Beautiful.
have I sold it? Everybody should watch this
I
film
think
to
you
find
have. I think
true
I'm gonna go
love.
rewatch it.
But you have
And I'll
love.
I'll tell my husband, sorry. Tell my husband, I'm sorry, I'm rewatching this. I need to find true love.
uh,
Horrible joke.
I could watch this movie again and again. I love this one. Like it's I don't know where the disconnect is. I mean, maybe some of it is it's like it sounds like you actually is a bit more of a fan of noir. Noir is one of those genres that I want to like, but generally don't. Like some nameless movies that we may or may not never talk about.
hmm.
So I mean, the examples of noir that I can think of that I enjoyed would be things like Batman the Animated series, which went with that noir feel in this one here. So I'm wondering if there's a disconnect between the noir and the noir light that that's maybe changing some of the perspective too. The other aspect is like when I think of the cartoony elements of this film, like yeah, no, that's what I would expect from Looney Tunes and such, especially like the early Merry Melodies and stuff too. So I guess it didn't take me out because that's where I was expecting it. And it sounds like both of you guys kind of had a bit of disconnect with how those aspects were portrayed.
I mean, yes, while I like the noir, genre and aesthetic, again, Drew, that's for you. I just feel like Roger Rabbit fell flat. I thought it was boring. It was full of tropes. Beat for beat, you know what's going to happen next. I mean, sure, you can say there's a twist at the end with Judge Doom, actually being an animated toon person, but I just thought it was predictable. I thought it was cliche, and I know that technically it was ahead of its time and it was the first movie to try something like that, but I didn't like it. I mean, I'm a fan of so many different movies that I can't say I just like one genre. I just like things that are creative and outside the box. And I think that's getting more so the case as time goes on. I mean, recently I watched An Evening with Beverly Loughlin. Is it a good movie? No. Did I like it? I still don't know. But it was creative. So I don't regret my time watching that as much as just sitting through Roger Rabbit and being like, okay, this beats next, this beats next. Something like An Evening with Beverly Loughlin is just so outside the park. I don't know what to expect with it. That's what I guess I like these days.
I'm wondering if it would be one of those things that if if you were old enough to like enjoy film in 88 when this came out and were of the same mindset, you'd have a different point of view because this would be something new and creative instead of just being something that we've actually seen over and over again and has been hashed out. Like these tropes have been used again and again and again, and it is like over the last, was it 35 years, probably seen this this same story and these same beats like dozens and dozens of times and just stuff that you've seen. So I'm wondering if that would be a different perspective, but it's not really. I don't think it holds up creative wise for nowadays. Like I'm somewhere between you two.
But I mean, there are plenty of good old movies. Like some of my favorite films are from the 70s. They predate Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Hmm.
And I mean, I didn't watch those when they came out because I'm not that old, but you know, I don't know. I don't think it's a period piece issue or the release date issue. I just think it's personally boring.
Yeah.
And that should be an okay answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
No,
mean, you
no,
don't have
sure.
to justify your answer. I'm just asking, like, inquiring into it.
So I guess because I know you've brought this up a few times about it being tropey and predictable, and I know like we've done a few other movies that were tropey and predictable. Um, I know personally, I've never seen tropes as being a bad thing necessarily. I don't think there's an issue with that having with it being tropey and predictable. Some of that come from the filmmaker aspect of it too, or where you're looking for more of that? I'm just wondering if it's there's something there too.
Yeah, I think I would feel the same way even if I wasn't making my own films. I mean,
Mm.
I enjoy
Yeah.
satire. I enjoy, satirical versions of common tropes.
Mm.
But I just don't like boring. I don't know if you guys watched the new movie with Bob Odenkirk. I want to say it's called Nobody. And I was looking forward to that because I thought that this was going to be a John Wick satire, sort of like Keanu, the movie with the cat was. And I mean, I like John Wick and I like Keanu, but Nobody was just a bad version of John Wick, and it didn't have any jokes, and it fell flat. I don't know. Maybe I'm just picky, or maybe this
Oh,
movie is horribly cliche. Maybe you guys are wrong.
Oh,
well, I don't think anybody's wrong. People have different tastes.
yeah.
The
No, this is a fight. I will win.
no, it's a discussion, not a fight.
Ooh, am I Khan? Are you Kirk? Who am I fighting?
Oh, I'm
I
usually
get
the
that
good
Star
guy
Trek
in these
reference. Let's
things.
go.
Nerd, nerd.
It's just more trying to understand just where you're coming from. Is yeah, just trying to understand the different perspective. It's part of what we want to do and explore as well, right? So, um,
Yeah, I do.
yeah,
I do firmly think I'm like somewhere directly between you two, as far as like my perception of this film, because I totally agree with Ashley on the like tropes and story beats, and like I totally enjoyed it to some aspect, like Devin. It's interesting to see both sides. Like I don't understand why you enjoy it so much, Devin. I do know there was definitely like little parts that I enjoyed, but they were all rooted in that technical, like practical aspect and how they did the filmmaking.
I just wanted to say that I'm a firm believer in there being no such thing as a guilty pleasure. And Devin, if you liked Roger Rabbit, you should proclaim your like of this movie. There is nothing wrong with
yeah.
liking a cliche, trope-filled movie if that's your jam, you know?
And like it depends, right? Like, because there's definitely some cliche trope-filled movies that are just ugh, like that happens. Um, for me, I mean, sure, some of it might be nostalgia. That's definitely a possibility. The technical aspects is something that just blows my mind. I mean, I still think it looks better than almost like half the CG stuff that comes out. I see things like Bob Hoskins, in my mind, sold the fact that Roger Rabbit was real, right? Like the acting was there, like felt like he had weight. He never looked like he was looking past the character, stuff like that. That's small, but helps sell the world. Uh, yeah, it was simple, but the the plot followed. I understood. I think they did good things with some of the tropes, like even like the story beat of the will, the missing will. I mean, in a way, that was another twist. It was foreshadowed, like it was mentioned pretty much all the way through. And when you actually go back and think of it, like I think stuff like that was, while simple storytelling, was good storytelling. Like they, if they set up something like a Chekhov's gun, it came back. Like none of that. It didn't waste any of that. It came to the portable holes, the disappearing ink, uh, all of those things built up. And sure, it was simple, but it was done well. Simple doesn't mean basic, I guess. Like it was a simple story, but yeah, built it built it well in that regards. It
Hey,
wasn't trying to be anything. I don't think it was necessarily even trying to be anything beyond a simple story in that regards.
I'm thinking that's probably what I'm missing from this film. The fact that I don't remember, like I didn't remember anything from it. There wasn't any of that nostalgia there. Like I didn't go into this like it, reminding myself who Roger Rabbit was or who Valiant was. It, I actually had forgot that Jessica Rabbit was even in this film. So like I didn't have any of that nostalgia to pull me in, and that's probably why I'm probably somewhere. And if I were to rate it, I would say 4 out of 8 days stars around my fridge struck head.
So when you said you forgot Jessica Rabbit was in this, can I just guess you're a Betty Boop guy?
Best scene of this entire movie was when Betty Boop was complaining about not being relevant anymore because of the girls that were in like full color, and then Jessica Rabbit comes on stage, and I'm like, oh, poor Betty Boop. Just the saddest doopy doop or whatever she said. I was just like, oh, I feel bad for you.
That was actually Betty Boop's voice
I
actress,
have
like the original Betty Boop voice actress and such too.
I have another question that I wrote down, and I don't know when else I'll get to ask this in my life. Sincere question. Is there a difference between old-timey guys having a thing for Betty Boop and hentai? You're both nerds, so I feel like I can ask this question and get an honest answer.
Well, I mean, waifu culture goes back to the Middle Ages. No.
First waifu was named Mary.
Oh, jeez. The
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Waifu? I have no idea.
That's going on a t-shirt. That is definitely going on a t-shirt. That's an honest question.
I mean, actually, yes. I would like to know what the difference is. And not like, don't get graphic about it. Like, yeah, I get one has tentacles, and I don't think Betty Boop has tentacles, but I mean, it's the same thing, right? Having a
don't know.
crush on an animated Betty Boop versus having a waifu pillow? Pretty similar.
Yeah, but waifu doesn't mean hentai.
No.
Difference. That's talking pinup. That's talking like a pinup model versus, you know, straight nudie mag type thing. Just because someone's waifus are, yeah, I don't think
No,
waifu
waifus are a
necessarily
different
means-
thing. But
Yeah,
I get what you're
So
saying.
Betty Boop would be like the boudoir, the high end, the fancy hentai waifu, and then like a pillow waifu is like the
No, waifu's
know.
not
I
really
have
the
no
correct term
idea.
here.
I mean, she was meant to be like a pinup. Pinup girl was a style, right?
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But she's got a giant head and a little body, and she's not proportionate. So I'm like, there's no way anybody thought, oh yeah, she's a real lady. They knew she was a cartoon and they were into it.
I don't think I have an answer for this. Maybe old timey guys were just into chicks with really big heads.
Well, if only Drew could find a chick that's into guys with really big heads.
Oh jeez, is this because I have a 2-foot head? If I were to get,
I have a massive head. I'm like just trying to shy away from the camera. Like, don't look at me.
you should I can guarantee the circumference of my head is bigger than yours. I have to get
Like a bobblehead.
definitely. Could almost think of, if you think about it the other way, the depictions of like a sexualized woman being guided by the interests of men of the time opposed to the other way around. So culture informing art, finger quotations, is probably where the answer would lie. Like if we're to give it a super direct answer. And it could also be she was drawn that cartoonishly to get around some form of censor. Because if it,
That's a good point. You
styles.
might be onto something.
yeah,
It could also be the style of the time, right? Because I mean, she was definitely that, like, she was meant to be a cartoony character, right? You can compare that to the Disney princesses and such, which would have been at the same time. It's just a very different style. So when you're having characters like Felix the Cat and such like that, which again would have been around that same time, like that was a style, just the big heads and the smaller bodies overall, pop by, same type of thing, right? So I don't necessarily know if it. I think she was meant to be attractive, but that doesn't necessarily mean she was. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what exactly they were going for in that regards. Like, still supposed to be. I'm phrasing this badly.
no, I get what you're saying.
Read my mind.
What you're saying is there's at least 5 people out there that are into olive oil
And 3 of them are in this conversation.
Jeez. Okay.
I didn't hear the response.
You don't need to.
You knew what you were getting when you asked me to be on the show.
I expected more rants. I guess now that we have solved the greatest mystery in this universe, this has been Beardy and the Beast Media Club. Join us next week when we discuss the film Haruka Azumi is Missing. And thank you for joining us, Ashley. Where can you be found?
You can follow me on Instagram at BLK Frames. That's Black Frames, my production company. I also have the podcast Ready Set with Ashley Good, which you can find on podcast players or podcast platforms everywhere. Literally everyone.
Awesome. You may have informed our decision making in the making of this podcast. Awesome. Well, if you've had an appropriately loony time and like what we do, give us a like or share. Make sure to follow Ashley at Ready Set with Ashley Good. Check out beardyandthebeast.com for a list of all the places that we here at Beardy and the Beast can be found. Thanks so much.
Have a good one.